Welcome to We Like D&D, the show where we talk about our favorite hobby, D&D, and TTRPGs in variety show style segments, like the ones we're doing today, a show and tell, pop culture character build, Q&A, and a game we made up called 2DM's One Player. I'm Kelly from the YouTube channel Power Word Spill, and I'm joined by one of my best friends and D-Inspirations, Alec. Alec, do you want to roll for introduction?
Sure. It's a nat 20.
Damn.
Oh, and what does critting on an introduction look like?
I don't know because I've never done it.
Oh, too accurate for myself as well.
I'd probably go up to a person and ask them about themselves with a nat 20.
Nice.
So you know nothing about me. I'm an enigma still.
We're also joined by fellow player and my long-term roommate / wife, Loren.
That's also how I introduce myself.
Loren, would you like to roll for introduction?
Yes. It's a 3. I go in for a handshake and they go in for a hug, and I do that awkward thing where I accidentally graze their crotch.
I've never done that.
I've also never done
Extremely relatable thing where you accidentally graze someone's crotch.
I've never done that.
And I hope you never do.
I know. First, we are doing Show and Tell. It's a segment where we take something that we found in the TTRPG world. It could be a module, a book, a spell, basically any piece of content that has caught our interest or is near and dear to our heart. We share a little bit about it and then hopefully have a little discussion.
Okay, I'll go first. I brought a homebrew class by Mage Hand Press. It's not new. I think it came out in 2020-ish, as far as I could tell.
Cool.
It's a witch.
Ooh,
so
very cool.
A spellcaster with a really distinctly witchy flavor, but it's witches as we know them kind of from old fairy tales where they're kind of
darker,
feared and outcasts and social pariah.
Love it.
Kind of witch.
Very cool.
Yeah, so they're the kind of magic user that are cursed by magic instead of blessed with magic.
Oh, okay.
So you get to choose the form that your curse takes. So for example, one of them is a burned witch. So almost all of your body has been scorched by magical fire. And so you have all these dark scars under your skin.
Whoa. Disgusting. I love it.
It's so cool. And you get stuff for that. So that one has resistance to fire damage and you auto-know produce flame or something like that. Or there's a version where you have, you're cursed with terrible visions, kind of like Cassandra from mythology. So you get to add your charisma modifier and your dex modifier to initiative rolls.
Wow.
Very cool. Yeah.
And are they charisma based?
I think they can be there's so many different kinds of them. Their subclasses are, I think it's craft. Your craft is your subclass. So there's you can build, there's so many varieties. You can do black magic. There's a candy themed, gingerbread magic. There's a sky witch where you have a lot of aerial abilities. It's you could be a coven of witches, a whole party of witches, and none of them would be the same.
That's very cool.
I'm so excited about this. I really want to play a witch now.
Maybe we should do that. Party of witches.
If you were going to make a witch character, what subclass would you be interested in playing?
I was looking through them. It's quite a detailed, it's a 50-page ebook essentially. There's because they have a lot of homebrew spells and cantrips and stuff with witchy flavorings. They've kind of reflavored a lot of existing spells. I was immediately drawn to the green magic witch, which I guess is kind of druidic.
Okay.
But then I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, why wouldn't you just play a druid, I guess, aside from the new spells? So I guess I'm most interested in playing a dark magic witch, a black magic witch, just because I think you could have a lot of fun with that. I guess you'd have to see what everybody else in your party is doing. It would be great for a villainous campaign. I think that could be super fun. The black magic one is definitely more a pain and suffering kind of focused.
Oh, wow.
One. So yeah, definitely not for we're good adventurers coming to save the town. It's definitely more of an evil run. But we've never done one of those as a party. I don't think we've ever done a dark urge run.
Yeah, but it's also an opportunity. I think that one of the most interesting things you can do as a player in my mind is make someone with an evil background or an evil flavor to them and then find a way to motivate them to do the good with the party.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. It can be fun playing with a really good character in the party to play off them, and you can have a fun thing where you're arguing about morality with your fellow players.
Mm-hmm. It's also kind of funny because you could play this really evil, black magic witch, but then give her kind of normal spell. You get a cauldron And so you can brew you can brew like potions of healing and like other kinds of potions and stuff. But there's also like a curse of aging where you can just like make somebody age twice as fast essentially, or like make somebody, I think it's like a potion of youth or something. So you can make somebody like appear younger. And so that's like very traditional fairy tale witch stuff that's not necessarily like fatal to anybody. It's just kind of like funny.
It's not that funny. I'm pretty sure someone has cast the curse on me to make me age twice as fast.
I don't think so.
I have a witchy anecdote. So I'm Indigenous and I live in my community and practice my culture. And my brother one day comes out of his house. He also lives in community. And there's this bundle of moss and cedar, and there's something wrapped up in it, and it's hanging on his door.
Oh my gosh.
And
very witchy.
He immediately freaks out a little bit because he's like, is this some like bad medicine? Which is like our English word for like a curse.
Okay.
So he calls up one of our relatives who's like a real knowledge keeper and is like, I found this like moss bundle just like hanging on my door. What do you think it is? And he describes it, and our relative's like, ooh, that sounds like it could be some bad medicine. If you open it, like just be really, really careful. And so my brother deliberates and opens it up, and there's nothing inside. So he's like, what the heck is this? And
it was like a cloth in moss, or just moss wrapped up, like bundled up?
It was all using like greenery.
Wow.
So it was all natural elements. So like prime ingredients for some bad medicine.
Yeah.
And so he is dumbfounded. But it turns out he had a friend living with him, and he took his then girlfriend on a walk in the forest, and she was just like a granola white girl, and she just thought it was really pretty, and she hung it up to dry.
That's really
and
funny.
He accidentally destroyed it. But for a moment, he thought someone was trying to curse him in our culture.
That's very funny.
It's interesting that you bring this in. I almost brought in a very similar class today.
Ooh.
There are two homebrew creators that I really love, Kibbles Tasty and Laser Llama. Mm-hmm. And Laser Llama has a witch or a witch doctor subclass that really intrigues me. Cool. That is very similar to the witch class that you brought in.
Cool.
So maybe we do a campaign where we both play two different kinds of witches.
I would love that.
A witchy campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't fit with the evil vibe, but we've been talking about running cozy D&D. So cozy witch D&D.
Cozy witch.
There is a cozy mystery series that I really love. This isn't my show and tell, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. Cozy mystery, chef's kiss, wonderful genre of novels.
Yeah.
It's called The Vampire Knitting Club.
Oh,
that's so cute.
Yeah, and it's about a young woman who takes over her late grandmother's knitting shop in the UK, and in due time she finds out that there's a vampire nest underneath, and the vampires knit together. And the vampires help her solve mysteries and murders and stuff like that.
That's very cute.
She's a witch.
I love that.
Briefly going back to the class, is there more expanded potion brewing mechanics in there? Because that's something I feel like is really lacking in D&D. Like, you can brew your own potions, but I wish there was some better mechanics for, needing certain ingredients and fleshed out a bit more.
I don't think there were like ingredient mechanics for it. It did have some, I think it's something similar to when you are an alchemist.
Okay. So
like an artificer alchemist. Yes. But there were also things I think you had to have, you get a number of alchemy points.
Okay.
Equal to your level divided by 2 or something like that. And so each certain potions cost like an amount of alchemy points to brew them. But I don't think there are any like ingredient components. Okay. Which would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a witchy class where there's a more concrete recipes and things like that. Where you can
for gathering things. Yeah. That would be
cool. Component lists and stuff. Maybe we'll have to make it if it doesn't exist. It might exist out there already. I might just not be aware of it. That's very cool. I am excited for you to play something like that.
Yeah, me too.
I'll go next. Okay, so I brought in a very rules light TTRPG, the rules lightest that there can be. It doesn't even need dice. It is called Wanna Play Right Now. Did you guys see the interview between Deborah Ann Woll and Jon Bernthal, where Deborah Ann Woll is explaining D&D to Jon Bernthal, who's an actor? He's been in like Walking Dead and stuff like that.
No, I haven't seen it.
I think I saw it on TikTok.
I didn't watch it in its entirety, but I did watch clips of it, and it inspired Clement Domergue. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but you made an amazing TTRPG called Wanna Play Right Now? Basically, there's a part in the interview where Deborah Ann Woll is trying to explain D&D to Jon Bernthal, and she goes, actually, do you want to just play D&D like right now? And then she just describes this forest setting. Actually, the front page of the TTRPG has the quote here. So Deborah Ann Woll says, do you want to play D&D like literally right now? So you have a bow strapped to your back, a sword, and a dagger at your hilt. You're walking through the woods. It's dark. It's at night. Almost no moonlight is coming through. You hear a crack off in the distance. Something large stepped on a branch. What do you do? And then they just play this little scenario right there. And that was kind of the best way to describe what D&D and TTRPGs are, just by having someone experience it, like what you did for us with actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Amazing.
So this is an extremely rules-light TTRPG. It's like 1 page of rules, or a half page, so a 1 zine page of rules, and all checks are done by rock, paper, scissors. So there's no dice needed. There's just a lot of freedom. You can have 3 skills, and they get introduced. Nothing is made ahead of time. You just start playing. Yeah. That's the whole idea behind this, is you just start playing, and then when you get to something that would require a check, you just ask the player if they have that skill, and they can say yes up to 3 times, and they have 3 skills. And if you have that skill, you get advantage on your rock, paper, scissors check. And then there is like a mini bestiary of a few different monsters with a few different scenarios, and the monsters are kind of done in a fun way, where it's kind of a bit video gamey, where you need to peel back the layers of their health and hit points. So like they have an ability that has 2 hit points, and once you defeat that, they get a different ability, and then that might have 1 hit point, and then after you defeat that, they have a final ability or something like that. And it's usually the monsters have like 3 or 4 HP, and each attack does 1 HP damage.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just super simple, and I think other than actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, it would be an excellent way to answer the question that I'm sure your friends ask, which is, so what exactly is D&D?
Totally. I was on a date recently, and she had never played D&D, only knew Stranger Things. Not even Critical Role, just Stranger Things. Yeah. If I had Do You Want to Play Right Now top of mind, I probably would have just been like, do you want to play right now?
Yeah.
In the middle of this movie theater?
We have to whisper rock, paper, scissors.
So yeah, it's free. It's pay what you want. I would absolutely recommend, if you end up using this, then throw some dollars towards Clement. And thank you so much for putting this together. There's a bunch of different scenarios in here, but you can really do whatever you want. It's designed to be super free and fluid, and just get across the idea of making decisions and putting you in a scenario and just being able to do whatever you want to do, because I think that freedom is what's most exciting.
Definitely. And I think the most confusing to people, because I know when we went on vacation with Kelly's family over last Christmas, and we were explaining kind of like, some of them knew what D&D was and some of them just like had no idea, and they seemed kind of perplexed by the idea of not really having a goal to the game, or like, how does the game end? How do you win? How does the game end? And you're like, well, it can kind of go as long as you want.
There is no winning in D&D. There's only losing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the great pitch. But yeah, we ended up playing. Kelly put together like a little one shot that we played one night. It was just like a big battle arena kind of thing. It was super fun. But I think probably this would have been a great intro for like your dad specifically, I think. Just because it's like
for the people that had never played before.
Or like never really even heard of it. I think that's like a great like starter drug.
Yeah,
I guess.
Sure. A few things I noted down. I love how simple it is, and that it's literally 1 page of rules, that you don't need anything. You don't even need dice. And that the scenarios that they put together are, I think, creative with very little required, but they're quite creative still. One thing I do like in actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, almost as a comparative entry to TTRPGs, is that there's such a clear goal in actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, where it's like, you need to escape. And so it's so easy as a player to understand that, like, someone's chasing you, you need to get away.
It does require buy-in, that you know that Shia LaBeouf, the actor, is a cannibal and is trying to kill you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's explained up top by the game master. And then the other thing is that 50-50 on rock, paper, scissors seems a little bit punishing, like if you're trying to make a check. But I mean, compared to not needing dice at all, that's pretty sweet.
Well, you could run it that a draw is like a neutral positive outcome.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a 50-50 shot. You're right. So ties are a win with consequences.
Right. And as a DM, you must love failing forward, right?
That's true. I do love winning with consequences. So yeah, that is Want to Play Right Now, a pay what you want, one-page simple TTRPG that you can use to finally answer the question to your friends and family, what is D&D?
Love it.
Bust it out at Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll link all these things down in the show notes.
I have also brought in a core rule system, a little bit different than you. It's an 800-page edition.
Wow.
It's called Haunted West, and it's by Chris Spivey and Darker Hue Productions. And it is an exploration of the Old West through TTRPG, but not the Old West that you see in popular media, which is extremely whitewashed and doesn't shine a light on any of the atrocities or the brilliant work by people of color to build the nation of America. And so it aims to tell the stories of paragons, the players, who are some such people in the Old West.
Wow. Very cool.
And so Haunted West is a core rule book, but also a massive setting guide for the Old West. And it's called Haunted West because optionally you can add in rules to add weirdness to the Old West. Magic, steampunk, these sorts of things.
Very cool.
I'm about 120 pages in, and there is lots of explanations of how the game works and what your goal is as the storyteller or the game master. But there's just so much information about what life was like in the Old West for people whose stories are often not told.
Right.
Cool.
And you're encouraged to play some such person.
Wow.
And believe it or not, this is not one of the reasons the book is 800 pages, but there's actually 3 versions of the rule set.
Oh.
Whoa.
There is a narrative only version of the rule set. Oh. There is a kind of standard theater of the mind TTRPG rule set. And then there is like a slightly crunchier playing with minis on a battle map rule set.
Wow, interesting.
It's a D100 system, and I actually really like D100 systems. So you have skills and abilities out of 100, and your goal is to roll the D100 under that number that is your skill.
Right.
But there's a big emphasis on degrees of success and failure.
That's cool.
And that system has kind of a poker aesthetic to it.
Okay.
So if you succeed by 10% or more, you get a jack. And you get a jack for every 10% that you succeed by. And you can either use those jacks on the roll that you succeeded to enhance your success, but you can actually put your jacks into your river and call upon them when you need them most.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's fun. Like saloon card game aesthetic there as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm about 150 pages into it, and I've fallen absolutely in love with it.
Very cool. Well, I hope to play it. This sounds awesome.
I don't know if I'm ever going to run it,
Okay.
but I am going to finish the book, that's for sure.
As soon as you finish the book, let us know.
Okay.
It's 800 full-size TTRPG pages?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
There's lots of really beautiful pictures in it as well, though. So like maybe 150 of those pages, they end up being like half a page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, to put together a monster book like that with art and everything, is this a big publishing company that put this out, or?
No. The main person behind Haunted West is Chris Spivey. And Chris Spivey really put himself on the map when he wrote Harlem Unbound for Call of Cthulhu,
Cool.
Which is an expansion on Call of Cthulhu that does a similar thing to Haunted West. It gives information on how to run Harlem for Call of Cthulhu. And with that, obviously, there's a big emphasis on the people in Harlem whose stories often don't appear in a Call of Cthulhu-like setting.
Right.
Yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft, famously racist. Lots of white people in his stories. Call of Cthulhu, despite its best efforts, also pretty white.
Yeah.
So Harlem Unbound is probably one of the greatest Call of Cthulhu expansions in my mind.
Cool.
And so that led me to finding out about Haunted West.
Very cool. Wow. Well, if you do ever decide to run it, I would love to play that. That sounds very cool, but a very intimidating page count to get started on. That's awesome, though.
So I actually recommend it to anybody who loves TTRPGs that is interested in world building.
Oh, okay.
Like you could read it and ignore the rules if you want to, and just have a very cool exploration shining light on the Old West.
That's very cool. Wow. That's awesome. I will have to check this out myself. All right, that was Show and Tell, and that segment was brought to you by Scissoring Your Friends. Rock, paper, scissoring your friends, that is.
Incredible.
Up next, we have a segment we're calling Pop Culture Character Build, where we take a character from our favorite book, movie, or TV show and build them as a D&D character. We all built them separately, so we're about to find out if we all built the same character or wildly different ones. This episode, we built Batman.
I'm Batman.
Batman.
I'm the Batman. Harvey Dent, can he be trusted?
Now that we got that out of the way.
We all have to do it in that voice, right?
Yeah, you have to read your entire
Yeah.
build in that voice.
Great.
I'm a goddamn wizard.
Did you build him as a wizard? Oh, that would have been fun. I would have loved to hear about that.
I did build him twice.
I also built him twice.
I was also really waffling, and you could build a lot of different Batmans. And
Party of Batman.
Yeah, you can have a whole party of Batmans. And it also really depends on which Batman you're building.
True. It's very
because
true.
There are a lot of different Batmans as well. So
Robert Pattinson.
Wow, all right. Interesting.
Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale's my Batman. Okay, who's going first?
I'll go first, but I'm starting with a question.
Oh.
Do you want Batman flavor or Batman mechanics?
Ooh, well, I built Batman flavor, so maybe Batman mechanics.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a very simple build, and it uses a very unusual race. So I built Batman the Aarakocra
Ooh.
Very surprising.
because
But also not.
Yeah.
he glides around on with his cape.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so
Batman?
I'm the goddamn Batman, bro. So a very simple build, Aarakocra Rogue.
Cool.
So I've taken 5 levels of Rogue.
Yep.
I considered using a couple levels of Monk, which is kind of obvious. He's a hand-to-hand combatant.
Yeah.
But what I decided to do instead was just stick with the rogue, and I made him strength-based, a strength-based rogue.
Interesting.
At level 3, we take the roguish archetype of Inquisitive, and that gives you ear for deceit. Whenever you make a wisdom insight check to determine whether a creature is lying, treat a roll of 7 or lower as an 8. And eye for details. You can use a bonus action to make a perception check to spot a hidden creature or object, or to make an intelligence investigation check to uncover or decipher clues.
Ooh.
Nice. Yeah, investigation Batman is definitely a cool Batman.
Yeah, so the rogue at level 1 gets 4 proficiencies, and I chose investigation, athletics, insight, and stealth. And you get 2 expertises as well, so I chose investigation and stealth. At 3rd level, you also get insightful fighting. You can basically look at your opponent's tactics and figure out better ways to fight them.
Whoa.
And the mechanic of it is you get your sneak attack even if you wouldn't normally get your sneak attack.
Whoa, that is so powerful. So
Yeah.
then you're 100% guaranteed sneak attack every single time.
Yeah. And at 4th level, I took the feat Tavern Brawler to get a D4 for unarmed
Yeah.
strikes.
Yeah.
So the primary way that you're doing damage as Batman is unarmed. And then I would work with my DM to turn darts into batarangs.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so that is the crux of my build.
Very cool.
Can you get sneak attack on unarmed attacks? That was one thing I came across that some people on Reddit were saying.
Yeah, it is unknown. It is hotly contested whether or not you can.
Somebody tweet Jeremy Crawford right now.
So what I would do is I would talk to my DM and see if it was something they were open to.
Nice.
And if they weren't open to it, I would ask them if I could reskin a dagger as like some sort of knuckle attack.
Yeah.
Brass knuckles, yeah.
That can be disarmed.
Yeah.
In order to get sneak attack, you just need the weapon to be versatile.
Right.
But you don't need to use your dex in order to get sneak attack.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Me too.
Aarakocra Batman. That's awesome. Would you like to go next?
Sure. Okay. I think mine might be kind of basic. I multi-classed him, but I still think it might be a little basic. So I started with a Oath of Vengeance paladin just because it's
Cool. Yeah.
kind of basic Batman.
My parents are dead.
Exactly. And then I did 2 dips into Artificer. I'm not DC fans. I'm not a Batman gal. I haven't read all the comics. I've seen like some of the movies, but I know that like depending on the media, Bruce Wayne sometimes makes his own tech and like sometimes makes his own gear or like modifies some of his own gear.
Oh, cool.
So I just kind of leaned into that
Nice.
because I wanted some like specific things. So he's like a Palificer, I guess.
cool.
Yeah, so Paladin 3, Artificer 2. I think the Oath of Vengeance Paladin thing is like pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, the Artificer, I did it specifically like not to get any sort of subclass in Artificer. I just wanted the ability to do the infusions because it has, there's like the returning weapon,
Yeah.
which is a Batarang.
Yeah.
And then you can have enhanced defense, which I guess is his bat suit, or like enhanced weapons. So you get like bonuses to attack, which just feels like
Yeah.
he would modify stuff to give himself attack bonuses and things.
And you also get to be an int-based martial class, which is, I think, very Batman.
Yeah, I figured like the noble background also works well for him. So
Yeah.
with that, you get like proficiencies in stealth and persuasion. I made him an elf, a high elf, just because, I don't know, it felt whatever, noble, that's fine. And then
Yeah.
I could give him advantage,
int
or not
bonus.
advantage. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, proficiency in perception. And then with his Artificer, like the dips into Artificer, you get Arcana and Investigation proficiencies.
Cool.
Also, as an elf, you get dark vision, which I think is just, that feels like a Batman kind of thing. And you don't need to sleep. You trance.
Nice.
So, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Sweet.
I didn't build him to be like super min-maxed, I guess. I just thought that was fun. But,
Yeah. Very cool.
But yeah, he is int-based. Int and then dex and then strength.
Cool.
Are like my top 3.
And what kind of weapon would you end up fighting with?
It's a great question.
Or your artificer weapons? Or no, you don't get that until you get your subclass.
Yeah. So they're not artificer weapons. They're just like whatever the paladin has. So I probably also would try to do something like dagger adjacent.
Cool.
But I don't know, because Batman does like I think I saw there was like a comic where he has a gun, but that doesn't feel
Yeah, for sure.
Batman-y to me. So yeah, I didn't really think about weapons.
I was heavily considering building a rogue as well, actually. I was heavily considering the Psi Warrior rogue subclass because I thought the psionic blades seemed like batarangs and stuff. But then there was also a bunch of stuff how they do psychic damage and don't leave any marks. So that didn't feel like it totally fit in.
Right.
So I ended up doing Way of the Shadow Monk,
Nice.
which
That's cool.
just felt drenched in Batman flavor.
League of Shadows.
Yeah, exactly. I specifically wrote down one line here, which is not in our 5th level build, but by 11th level, you have learned to become one with the shadows. And that just...
You've merely adopted the dark, Mr. Wayne.
I was born in the shadows. Yeah, exactly. So, Way of the Shadows Monk, you get access to some spells like Darkness, Silence, and Dark Vision.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think just going in and casting Darkness and then just going in and beating the crap out of people. Although it doesn't let you see in darkness, but I mean, he can rely on his echolocation.
Right, yeah. Well, did you give him a race? Like what race did you build him as?
I would just build a human variant, I
Okay,
think,
yeah.
and just take the extra feet. Yeah.
With the extra feet, you could take a fighting style, and one of the fighting styles is blind fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. Okay, that'd be very cool. Yeah. So there's tons of stuff. So yeah, at 3rd level, you get Shadow Arts, which is as an action you can cast spend 2 key points to cast Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without Trace, or Silence. So it's also stealth based.
Yeah.
And then again, this is outside, but at 6th level you get Shadow Step, which is like Misty Step from the shadows, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also, if my DM was down for it, I would get Wings of Flying magic item, which is just straight up bat wings. While wearing this cloak, you can use an action to speak its command word. This turns the cloak into a pair of bat wings or bird wings on your back for 1 hour, or until you repeat the command word as an action. The wings give you a flying speed of 60 feet. So yeah, you just straight up bat wings. And I'd also take the mobile feat so that you don't get opportunity attacks. So because I feel like Batman's in among crowds squads of thugs just ripping around, punching people in the face, and he's pretty mobile when he fights. So yeah, pretty straightforward build, just 5 levels of Shadow Monk, dump it all into Dex, and probably also bump int up pretty high, and then put some proficiencies into things like investigation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love that our builds were all very different.
Yeah, me too.
My flavor build was actually very similar to Loren's.
Okay.
But it was Oath of the Watchers,
Oh.
which I think is very D&D Batman coded.
Yeah.
The Oath of the Watchers binds paladins to protect mortal realms from the predations of extraplanar creatures, many of which can lay waste to mortal soldiers. Thus, the Watchers hone their minds, spirits, and body to be the ultimate weapons against such threats.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. That's sweet. Yeah, my other choice was going to be probably an artificer of some kind as well. I was thinking armorer is kind of, you get all the different gadgets, parts of your armor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, again, you could have a whole party of Batmans and they'd all be different. So very cool.
You could have a party of half witches, half Batmans, and one Batman witch.
A bat witch?
Yeah, the Bat Witch.
To complete the Venn diagram.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
That segment was brought to you by Batman's latest tech venture, the Batarang Vibrator. The Batarang Vibrator, no matter how far you throw it, it'll keep coming back. And you'll keep coming, period.
Wow, I can't believe we got the sponsor from that. What a get.
And now time for a little Q&A. If you've got a question that you'd like answered, join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/powerwordspill. We've got a lot of stuff going on over there, including bonus episodes once a month with pop culture inspired adventures to go with your character builds, extra show and tell items, and more Q&As, plus other fun stuff from Power Word Spill, like one-shots and magic items to incorporate into your games. Today we've got 2 questions about wrapping up campaigns that tie together quite nicely. Our first question is actually from YouTube, from Imano_08, who asks, how can I end a final boss fight to make it more satisfying and cinematic for my players and I?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on this.
Me too.
Me 3.
Well, my main thought is double D's. Dialogue and description.
I was going to say, please elaborate.
You had me at double D's.
Final boss, big ol' biddies.
If it's a beast, not something that would inspire dialogue, then I think just going heavy on the descriptions after the battle, describing what the contrast between the chaos of battle and the final, the moments after, your players, what they're, breathing heavy, covered in blood and goo, and lots of rich descriptions, I think will make the scene feel cinematic, especially describing the relief they may be feeling after hunting this thing for months or years or however long your campaign was. And then also enhancing that contrast with music as well. If you have some really intense battle music, then cutting to either silence or some kind of mellow victory music. I think just having the contrast could make it feel really cinematic. What do you guys think?
Good call. I have, funny enough, Kelly, my advice is similar and opposite to yours.
Okay.
Which is the way in my mind to really ramp up the feeling of victory is all about what happens before the victory.
Oh, okay.
So you want to ratchet up the tension as much as you can leading up to the fall of the final boss, or
Totally.
the boss that your encounter is.
Yeah.
And if you can design the encounter to have like a side objective that you're working towards and have the tension between the boss being a threat and the secondary objective needing to be completed. But if you're ratcheting up the tension before the final boss dies, you're going to get the better payoff of relief or victory or when it finally happens. But when it does happen, I have some dirty advice for you.
Okay.
Which is lie to your players.
Oh.
You know approximately, probably exactly how much HP your boss has, but your players don't. And you can hold on to the death of your boss for the right moment. That boss can be on death's door, but if there's one character whose stakes are higher for this fight, maybe it has a couple more HP until it's that player's turn.
That's literally what I was going to say. Yeah. I think that's really good advice.
I lie to my players all the time.
Yeah.
I hate to hear that as your player.
I'm a stickler for the HP. I'm a stickler for the HP. So yeah, I like giving the opportunity to the player who it matters most. But at the same time, I definitely wouldn't go stretch it too far. For me, in my style, I prefer not to stretch it too far because then I start to question when is the right time enough. And so I sometimes like the dice to make that decision for me a bit.
That's totally fair.
And I like that when it does happen organically, it feels even better, although it means that sometimes you will have final boss fights that will just end with a random thing going on. But,
right, like some fighter who has 3 attacks and is just like, well, on your second attack, that's it.
Yeah, but I think that is super valid, though, and I think that is very worthy of trying out to see if that works for you.
I think especially if it's a player that likes to like engage in like the world building, I guess, a bit more, and would have like a very like at our table, we do the how do you want to do this model. So if it's a player who would get like really into describing how they deliver like the final blow, I think that method would be really good, because I feel like it's really satisfying for everybody at the table, like the players specifically, but everybody at the table, to have like whoever delivers the final blow to the big bad be the one to like describe how it goes down. But obviously not if it's someone who like me probably wouldn't do a great job of describing it. But like you as a player, Alec, I think you would do a really good job. We have another player at our table who I think would do a really awesome job with that. You just think cinematically, I think. So
I think you as the GM can leapfrog off of no matter what your player says. Like if they say, all right, stab them in the head, you can like take that as a GM and, you know, describe them running up the monster's back and plunging their sword through its skull. And like, I take great satisfaction in making whatever my players say cinematic.
Yeah, that's true.
So true.
So I don't know that I would hesitate to give it to someone who's maybe not as descriptive.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Like, don't hold on to it because you're like, oh, that player like wouldn't describe it in a good way, so I won't let them like have the kill. But I think it's like, again, if it works out, I think at the table, like, oh, that would be very satisfying.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fairly true of my advice about lying to your players as well, is like, just don't let it happen in like an anticlimactic moment.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, just like you're saying, like you can really make any how do you want to do this epic, you know? You grip your grip on your sword tightens, a bead of sweat drips down your forehead. Your party gathers around you. Everybody's wounded, everybody's tired. The fighter is gasping for breath, and you know in this moment you need to make the difference.
Yeah.
You thrust your sword, it goes through the dragon's head. You know,
absolutely.
So just say exactly that. That was perfect.
Yeah. So just take what Alec just said, write that down. Yeah. And then the other thing I have noted down here is for where it feels appropriate, you can also have some last bits of dialogue if your BBEG is some creature that talks, and you know, maybe the party's been having a war of words throughout the campaign with this creature. Regardless of who has the killing blow, you can, you know, have a moment where they're just bleeding out and they say, you know, one last jab, and give the players an opportunity to get the last word in and plunge the sword through their chest and finish it. Because I feel like one thing that's very satisfying is if a BBEG has been taunting you or throughout, and then they always, you know, have quips or things, you get to be the last person who's like, you know what? No, I finish this. I get the last word.
Hell yeah.
Don't be afraid to, even if they go down to 0 HP, you can put them in a quote unquote dying condition and just, you know, have a couple last breaths to give your PCs the chance to get the last word in. Anyone have any other thoughts on that?
Negative.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I think the common thing that we all said is descriptions, like really rich descriptions. Just think about all the senses, smell, sight, sound, and contrast between what may be happening during the battle to after, building up that tension to make sure that the victory feels satisfying. What's the other question?
Second question is from Roger on Patreon, who says, we're about to end our first campaign together as a group. Congratulations. What's your opinion on the best ways to end a campaign? Should the PCs prevail, beat the BBEG, and they all live happily ever after? Or should I throw them something twisty right at the end?
I think it really depends on what your intentions are for the future.
Yeah, that's what I wrote too.
Yeah, if you want to write a sequel campaign, it's the perfect time to throw a twist in.
Yeah.
I think that should the party defeat the BBEG and live happily ever after, I think that as much as you should lie to your players, that should come down to the dice. But A lot of old school DMs will have their campaign world persist
Yeah.
after the campaign ends. And so it really depends. Do you want the characters to be played again? Do you want them to be NPCs in your future versions of your world? Like what do you want?
Yeah.
But I love a little twist at the end, a little twist of the dagger.
Yeah, I wrote notes pretty much exactly the same thing as if you want to put this campaign world and these players to bed, then give them a resolution, make it feel satisfying and like the story is complete and finished. Because I think as a player, if you throw in a twist, it's just going to make you want to play that player or that character more and come back to the story and finish the things that are unfinished. So I think it would be a tough sell for me as a player to end a campaign and then have a twist at the end and be like, actually, you can't solve this mystery though, because we're done. I'd be like, no, what? I want to. This is so intriguing.
Yeah, the kind of the primary question of tabletop is what do you do?
Yeah.
And so you don't want to put a player in a situation where they know what they want to do and tell them that they can't do it.
Yeah, I kind of I feel like it's akin to your favorite TV show being canceled early and they end the season on a cliffhanger and then they don't come back for season 2 and then you're like, what?
Clone High.
So yeah, and but I think if you did want to do a twist where you keep playing in the world, another option would be to give your players a twist, but not the characters, in which you could describe a scene that is away from, like, give your players the happy ending and whatever, but describe a scene that is away from the POV of the characters and, plant a seed for a future campaign in the world. Like your characters kill the Lich and the magic dissipates, but, 40 levels below, magic energy gathers and a new evil comes out of the underwell spring and starts to, this fungus spreads along the dungeon floor. Something like that, where it's away from your character's point of view, but your players get the twist.
Yeah, the beginning and the end of the campaign are perfect times to have quote unquote cutscenes. Yeah. So take advantage of that time.
Totally. I'm a sucker for a happy ending, so I want my character to live happily ever after.
I agree. I love a happy ending. I think we've only, as a group, finished 2 campaigns, like straight to the end, where we've done a nice little wrap up. And I love the happy little wrap up. I love when the DM is like,
epilogue.
Exactly. Like, what is your player up to now that the adventure's concluded and they get to, like, whatever, live out their days doing whatever they like most with, like, the people they like and their friends and their family, etc. I really like that. Like, if I want angst, I'm just going to read fanfic with major character deaths. That's not what I'm looking for in D&D most of the time.
Although it happens.
It does happen, yeah. I guess maybe like something twisty right at the end. Is it like right at the end, like in the epilogue, or right at the end, like
if it's like the last 5% of the story and there's a twist right before the final end? Sure, awesome. But I think, for me, I want my character's story to be resolved. If you don't want me, like Alex said, if you don't want me to keep playing this character, I want their story to be resolved.
Yeah, I agree.
That segment was brought to you by Happy Endings. Happy Endings, available at or under a table near you. Next up is a game of our own devising called 2DMs 1 Player. In 2DMs 1 Player, Kelly and I will each take turns at 1-minute intervals DMing a mini adventure for Loren.
Yay.
But there's a twist. We are competing to see if we can make Loren say a word off of our roll table, and whoever gets Loren to say the word the most wins. But beware, neither of us can say the secret word, otherwise there's consequences.
Spankings, right?
If I'm lucky.
Let's roll to see what word we're working with today.
Kelly, would you like to do the honors?
Oh, okay. That is a 14 present. And now I'm going to roll to see who's going to go first. How are we doing this?
Low roll goes first.
All right. I'm up first. Let's bring Loren back.
Okay. Wow me. I'm ready.
Well, first, before we wow you wow me. What's your character's name?
Wow.
We have a guest here. My character is a tiefling monk named Brandy.
Brandy, the tiefling monk.
A classic tiefling name.
Basically, you got to name your tiefling after an alcohol. Brandy, sherry,
Yeah.
vodka.
Yeah.
champagne. It's a lot of thinking time, Kelly. I think we're starting to eat into your timer here.
Start the time.
Okay, here we go. Oh no, what's your name?
Brandy.
Brandy.
Do you want to start the timer again?
No, that's fine. That's on me. Brandy, you find yourself facing down a time portal. You have been in the time portal and you have gone back. It's very experimental. So you're building up slowly journeys back through time. And you have managed to go up to 1 hour back in time. But after going back in time, the machine malfunctioned and you are now stuck 1 hour previous to your current timeline. You find yourself in a lab, a tinkerer's lab, and you were the assistant to Professor Dinkenspiel.
And you've studied Professor Dinkenspiel a little bit in your time journeys. He's been kind of a thread throughout all of your time travels. But if you want to get back to the current time, you're going to have to find something in this workshop to help yourself out. Now, first thing I'm going to do is get you to make a perception or investigation check.
19.
19. So you would know that it's just before Yuletide. And so you see, amongst a lot of Tinker's tools, you see a tree with a bunch of gifts underneath it. But they're all in interesting shapes. Like maybe these are tools and creations that Professor Dinkenspiel has made and is preparing to give away. You also find,
you know what? You turn your attention away. The gifts, they're not that important.
Yeah, I don't want to open other people's gifts.
You're standing before this large portal that is like a metallic structure around the outside. The other thing you notice is that the professor is not here. The professor is gone. So you're going to have to figure out how to activate this thing and get back onto your timeline. You see a bunch of runes on the outside of the portal. What would you like to do?
Can I read them?
You can certainly take a closer look. Go ahead and make me an investigation check.
11.
You see that there are different settings that can be dialed in. It looks like there are 3 settings that are kind of like the main modes of this time travel.
Yeah, there are 3 settings, three distinct dials. And you can kind of get a sense for, these aren't runes that you recognize. They look like they could be the creation of Professor Dinkenspiel himself. Go ahead and make me like an Arcana check. 11. You don't really piece a lot together. What is your goal here?
I mean, I guess it's to get back to present time, an hour later.
Okay.
Am I running around? Like, is an hour ago me running around somewhere, presumably?
You haven't seen yourself.
Okay.
But you've been in different times and places. Professor Dinkenspiel has been a thread throughout, but you haven't.
But in this particular timeline, you yourself and the professor are not present currently.
Great. Okay. Is there anything on his desk maybe that I could use to...
I think I just lost the game. Is that instant disqualification? We never covered that instance.
I was hoping you would just go with it and we could talk about it at the end, because I feel like this was going to wrap up well for me.
Yeah, definitely going to wrap up well for you. Okay, well, so for future rules, if one of us accidentally says the word, it's just a minus point.
A minus 2 points.
Minus 2
That's
points.
fair.
Okay.
So if we institute those rules now, you kind of ended the game early and you're at -2 and I'm at 1. So we'll just call me the winner. I call that an absolute win.
I have no idea what the word is, by the way.
Present.
Oh.
We could have just kept going, Kelly.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I guess we'll roll one more.
I think that was great.
And that's our show. If you'd like to contribute a word to the word list for 2DMs, One Player, you can leave a review on iTunes or Spotify with a word suggestion in it before April 13th. Then we will include it in our special 2DMs, One Player game in the May episode, where we'll be rolling entirely on a table of word suggestions from you. We'll also be shouting out everyone who left a review and their suggested word at the end of the episode. And it just really helps us out as a new podcast. If you could leave a review, that would be we would really appreciate it. We have 3 episodes that you can listen to right now, and then there will be a new episode releasing on the first Monday of every month, plus a bonus episode on the Patreon. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
Bye.
And if you'd like to give this podcast its own happy ending, share it with a friend.